Win a national title and go independent in College Football 26 Dynasty. So as you can imagine, I'm not feeling great about what happened on the field on Friday night as a Ducks fan, but we gotta make some videos. So today, this Monday, we are going to make a video where if you win a national championship, you go independent. We're gonna run this one a little bit longer than we usually do. Usually we go 3 years. We're gonna run this for 5 years just to see if there's any changes. I'm curious if anybody can go back to back or how far down people fall after going independent. So for this one, we did our 2026 updates. So we moved the Mountain West teams to the Pac-12. We moved the Sun Belt teams over and still have yet to hear about when Louisiana Tech is going to join the Sun Belt. So waiting on that. But we also have moved the independent teams out. So we put UConn in the American and we put Notre Dame in the ACC. I know most people want Notre Dame to be in the Big Ten, but the fact of the matter is they are an ACC school. So they would go to the ACC unless there was conference realignment. So we're going to roll with Washington State because I've been getting a lot of hate from them on my main channel. So let's just see how they actually play in College Football 26. Like I said, we're going to do 5 years. We'll do best team, best conference. Really, it's going to be mostly best team. And I guess we'll count the best conference for teams that win, even if they get cycled out into the independent sphere. Make sure that you like and subscribe. We're going to try to move to 7 videos a week on this channel, really get it going. It's easier for me to get these out on a daily basis, so we're going to focus on doing that. So make sure that you are along for the ride and you're subscribed, but let's go ahead and sim to our first CFP. Not a great start so far for Washington State. We're 3-4, but we have some interesting things going on here in the top 10, namely Ole Miss is number 1 in the country. I know that they just made it to the college football playoff semifinal, but you generally don't see Ole Miss making it up this high, especially in the first season of a dynasty. They just got a win over number 5 Oklahoma that vaulted them up there. So Ole Miss has a pretty tough schedule coming up. They got South Carolina left. They beat Georgia. They beat Oklahoma 2 in a row. Actually, they don't really have that tough of a schedule. They got the South Carolina game, and then they are pretty good from there on out. Maybe Nebraska is kind of a weird game for them to have that late in the season. But Ole Miss, we could be seeing them as one of the teams that get a bye in the first round. We've got a couple teams here. This team just shat the bed on national television. I don't know if you saw that. That sucked. Miami up toward the top. A&M up pretty high for the first season of Dynasty. Arizona State. I feel like we've been seeing Arizona State get off to good starts in our recent videos, and then they haven't really come through with it. So we'll see about that. Another team that we don't see up high, Colorado, 7-1, top 14 in the first season. So that's pretty good. Tulane, Texas State up there. So we've got some pretty cool things going on. Even Cal in the top 25 in the first CFP. So we've got a couple interesting things going on in this first season here. Let's see if any of them can go through. Let's take a look actually at the Pac-12 standings, because we did see one team up there with Texas State. Oregon State is technically it's because it's not that many conference games, not that many conference teams. Probably looking to get to a bowl game right now. It's the classic Pac-12 championship, Oregon State, Washington State, which they've played 3 times in the last 2 seasons because they don't have a conference anymore. But I don't know that even we're going to be able to get to a bowl game. We're going to have to pull off a couple tough games here. JMU and Texas State till the end of the season. But we could kind of ruin the thing for the conference if we beat Texas State in the last week. So let's sim to the conference championship games. One of the stupid things about the new conferences is think about the difference between playing in Pullman in December or playing in San Marcos in September. Like 2 very, very different games that are supposed to happen in the same conference, just depending on where they fall in the schedule. So that's one of the stupidest things about the new conferences. But let's look at the conference championship game. So we have a top 10 matchup in the ACC, already a top 20 matchup in the American championship game. Tulane is in with a win. We'll see about North Texas because we got James Madison in the top 20. Our Pac-12 championship game, Boise State actually got up to number 18. So Texas State did not have a great end to the season, it seems like. So if Tulane loses, it's open season for JMU or Boise State. I think, or really, if Baylor gets the win, we could see 2 G5 teams in the first season here, depending on what happens in the Big 12 championship game. And then, of course, granted that the ranked teams win in the, even if Tulane loses, Baylor probably doesn't jump over all 3 of these ranked teams if they win in the Big 12 championship game. So we could see 2 in the college football playoff in the first season, but we're going to get 2 from the Big 10 for sure, 2 from the ACC, and 2 from the SEC, regardless of what happens in those conference championship games. Let's take a look at the top 25, see what we're missing. I think we got a couple other teams in there. So Penn State was not in a conference championship game. They will be in. Ohio State will also be in. Michigan was in a conference championship. SMU will be in. Indiana will be in. And I think that Alabama that loss to Auburn could be big because they're going to get pushed out by whoever wins either the Big 12 championship game or one of those G5 teams, regardless of what happens. Tulane is really the bubble team. Well, I guess Indiana is technically the bubble team, but they're in. So Tulane is really the bubble team if they lose their conference championship game. And we see Colorado kept it up all season. That final loss to Kansas State could have catapulted them probably above Tulane. They're probably right around this 10 spot with Indiana if they get that win against Kansas State, but that loss by 3 on the road really kind of canned their season for them there, which would have been, I don't think I've seen Colorado make the playoff in the first season ever, so that would have been a big thing. They'll make it later on, but not in the first season so far what I've seen. Jaden Mayava wins the Heisman in the first season, over 4,000 yards, 33 touchdowns. USC was the number 2 team in the country when we looked at it, so maybe they won the Pac-12 champ or the Big Ten championship game over Michigan and got that first round bye. Let's look at this bracket and see what actually happened here. So they actually lost in the conference championship game, but we did get we actually got the 2 G5 teams that actually made it this year into the college football playoff in the first season. So JMU makes it in. So that means that Baylor beat BYU in the Big 12 championship game. The Big 12 misses out on the playoff in the first season. Tulane and JMU both get in. JMU will take on Miami in the first round in Miami. The winner takes on Georgia in the Sugar Bowl in the second round. We get SMU and Ole Miss. Ole Miss was number 1 in the country. We looked at it earlier on in the season. They did, in fact, make it to the playoff. They lost in the SEC championship game to Georgia. So it's SMU, Ole Miss in the first round in, Oxford, Mississippi. Winner will take on Penn State in the Rose Bowl. Penn State's the number 1 overall seed, despite not making their conference championship game. Tulane will take on USC. This is a rematch of the 2022 Cotton Bowl, the last time that Caleb Williams, the last game Caleb Williams played in college where they lost, giving up like 15 points in the last 2 minutes of the game to end up losing the game. Basically the opposite thing happened to Caleb Williams in the game on Saturday night between the Bears and the Packers. A sick win. I've got Caleb Williams in my Dynasty fantasy team, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. And I just won the championship this year, so we're looking for back-to-back, folks. Anyway, that game is going to happen at the Coliseum. Winner takes on Clemson in the Cotton Bowl, and then we get Indiana, Ohio State, rematch of this year's Big Ten championship game, with the winner taking on the actual Big Ten champion from our sim, Michigan, in the Orange Bowl. So we have 5 Big Ten teams, 1 American team, 1 Sun Belt team, 3 ACC teams, Miami, SMU, Clemson, 2 SEC teams, Ole Miss and Georgia. No Big 12 teams in the first year of our sim. Let's see who ends up going independent in the first year. Basically chalk in the first round. Both of our G5 teams lose by double digits. JMU by 10 to Miami. Miami will take on Georgia in the second round. Tulane gets doubled up by USC. USC will take on Clemson in the second round. Ohio State beat Indiana by 28. We know that that's not realistic because Indiana fields a team of 25-year-olds that just pounds your team into the ground. So that would happen in real life. But we do get Ohio State-Michigan rematch, which I'm assuming that Michigan won in the regular season by virtue of them being in the Big Ten championship game. That'll happen in the Orange Bowl. And then we've got Penn State taking on SMU, which is a rematch of the first round game last season in the playoff. This time, SMU beat Ole Miss by 10 on the road to take on Penn State in that Rose Bowl game. So 4 of our Big Ten teams make it through. I guess 2 of our Big Ten teams make it through. 2 were already having first round byes. We have all 3 SEC or ACC teams in the second round. Only 1 SEC team in the second round. So it's really dominated by the Big Ten and the ACC, which kind of lines up with what we've been seeing over the new Sims with the updated rosters, which I think came in the last week, was when the updated rosters come in, and that's when we started to see a change towards the Big Ten and the ACC dominating as opposed to the SEC. 3 ACC teams make it through to the semifinal. Miami gets the win by 10 in the Sugar Bowl over Georgia. SMU gets the win by 19 over Penn State in the Rose Bowl. So Miami, SMU in an all-ACC matchup in the Peach Bowl. Then Clemson absolutely crushes USC 45-7 in the Cotton Bowl. And Ohio State gets by Michigan by 3 in the Orange Bowl, representing the lone Big Ten team that makes it through to the semifinal. All of the first-round bye teams lost, which actually does line up with reality. And then Ohio State and Clemson will face off in the Fiesta Bowl. So 3 ACC teams in the semifinal in the first year really puts this thing on a certain track for the rest of the season. Looks like at least one of those teams is probably going to be an independent team if we don't see something change, unless Ohio State has something to say about it, essentially. And it's either Miami or Clemson that is going to end up being an independent after Miami gets by SMU 33-14, kind of crushes them, keeping their streak of double-digit wins alive. They won by 10 in the first two, almost 20 in the third one. Clemson beats Ohio State by 3, so it's Clemson, Miami, in Miami, not just for the national championship, but for independent status in college football. And we'll see if this happens in reality, but Miami wins the 2025 national championship in overtime by 7 over Clemson in our first year of the sim. So that means that Miami goes back to being an independent as they were prior to the 91 season when they joined the Big East and started the Big East football wing. That is where they're going to head back to being independent status in our sim here. So Miami starts it off. ACC gets 1 win. ACC has 3 teams in the semifinal. Miami's the best team in the video so far, and the ACC is definitely the best conference in the video so far. Let's go make the changes to the conferences and get into the next season. Okay, a bad second season so far for Washington State. We're 1-7. I think I'm getting fired after this year. But importantly, Miami is back in the top 5 as an independent this year. They are 7-1. What was their one loss? Their one loss was to Florida, which is a game they would have played as an independent or non-independent, as that is a rivalry game. Let's see what are some changes. Central Michigan is not a game that they would usually play. LSU is definitely not a game that they would usually play. ODU, Western Kentucky are new games in there. So a pretty soft schedule, but they get the win over Notre Dame earlier in the season. They lose to Florida. We don't see a Florida State game on here, which is an interesting omission, but LSU is a pretty tough game. So they're basically taking similar to the Notre Dame strategy of scheduling 1 or 2 big games and then kind of filling it up with cupcake opponents or quote-unquote Power 4 opponents. Just the Boise State strategy with a little bit more pizzazz because you can cherry pick a Purdue game, a Stanford game, and call them rivalry games when in all reality, those rivalries wouldn't exist if you would have just played in a conference this whole time. I digress. We get UCLA in the top 10 here. Texas Tech is in the top 10. Usually we see them pretty good in the first season. They were not, but they've popped back in this second season. Mississippi State in the top 15. That is a pretty surprising one. Baylor we've got up there. North Texas, who was 20th at the end of the season, ended up losing in the American Championship game to Tulane. Otherwise, they would have been in the playoff. Tulane lost in the first round, and we see that's probably a collision course for them in the conference championship game for the American this year as well, with both of them in the top 25. Those are our only 2 G5 teams that are up there currently. Mississippi State is a surprising one, and we have Notre Dame, who's in the ACC. I was going to say an independent team, but we have 1 independent team, and then our 2 G5 teams there. Let's look at the Pac-12. We had Texas State and Boise State that both were ranked last year. It doesn't look like either of them are doing that this year. Fresno State is our best team at 5-3. Really not a great showing from the conference here in the second season. But let's go to the conference championship games before we judge and see what's going on. We ended 4-8. That's 2 straight seasons at 4-8. We haven't been fired yet that I saw, but I think we're probably going to get fired either this year or next. Okay, so let's check our G5s first. We've got Buffalo, Hawaii, App State all ranked, but really it's 12 versus 13, Tulane and North Texas. Could we potentially get 2 teams in the playoff from the same G5 conference? That'll be interesting to see. The Big 12 will be in after missing it last year, at least with BYU. Again, could be interesting to see if Texas Tech loses. Could North Texas or Tulane stay in, depending on how the American Championship game goes? Probably unlikely, but it could definitely happen. 2 ranked teams here. Clemson is not going to lose out, but we could see the ACC not have a conference champion in if Notre Dame gets the win because they are currently unranked. That could then actually end up hurting the other G5 team here because this is the 4th ranked if Notre Dame wins. Then we probably get 2 G5 teams, but we don't get 2 G5 teams from the same conference. So we'll see how that works out. We could very well see Buffalo, Hawaii, or App State, which are much more surprising than Tulane or North Texas in the CFP this season. We're missing a couple teams here. One of them is Miami, who is at number 9. So it looks like Miami is going to get back in after being an independent from winning the national championship last season. Oregon was number 5 and lost their way down. Probably an end-of-season loss to UCLA and Michigan at the end of the season. So that's a great way to find your way out of the playoff. But we could very well see Miami. We should see Miami in the college football playoff again this season after going independent. So we'll see what that means. If they win again, what does that mean for our video? We'll see. John Mateer wins the Heisman in the 2nd season. So generally we see John Mateer win it in the 1st season. Maybe he's coming back now with the new roster update. He comes back, 3,400 yards, 31 touchdowns. Not a great season, but he wins Heisman in the 2nd year. Mayava won it in the 1st year. Let's see who actually makes it into the bracket this year. Okay, so Tulane ended up winning the American Championship game, and Clemson did end up winning the ACC Championship game. So we only get one, but Tulane has made it in back-to-back seasons now as the American champion and the G5 representative. Tulane and Clemson, winner takes on Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Texas Tech makes it in. 2 Big 12 teams in this season after missing it last year. Texas Tech takes on Alabama. At Alabama, winner takes on undefeated USC, the number 1 team in the country, in the Orange Bowl. We get an all-SEC matchup between South Carolina and Tennessee. Winner takes on another SEC team in Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. And then we get BYU against our defending national champion and solo independent team, Miami, in Miami, with the winner taking on Georgia in the Peach Bowl. A rematch of last year's first-round game could be on the table in the same bowl game. No, it was in the Sugar Bowl last year. Miami did play in the Peach Bowl last year, but it was in the semifinal. But Georgia and Miami played in the Sugar Bowl in the quarterfinal last year. We could get a rematch of that game here in the quarterfinal this year. So, 2 Big 12 teams. We have got 1 ACC team. We would have 2, but Miami is a former ACC team. We have got 5 SEC teams: Georgia, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama. And then we've got 2 Big 10 teams with USC and Ohio State. Of course, we have our American representative with Tulane in the 12 seat. Let's see if we can get a G5 win here in the 2nd round and if Miami can repeat as national champion. Chalk up top, upsets on the bottom. So Tulane falls 2 points short at Clemson. Clemson moves on. They'll take on Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Alabama wins by almost 2 touchdowns over Texas Tech. It's USC and Alabama in the Orange Bowl. Then Tennessee doubles up South Carolina at South Carolina, 42-21. Oklahoma and Tennessee in the Fiesta Bowl in the 2nd round. And then our defending national champion gets knocked off, upset in the 1st round by BYU. Our Big 12 representative in the quarterfinal, they win by 2. They'll take on Georgia. So it's Georgia, BYU in the Peach Bowl in the 2nd round. So that means that we have 4 SEC teams in the quarterfinal: Oklahoma, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. 1 Big 12 team with BYU, 1 ACC team with Clemson, and 2 Big 10 teams both had a first round bye, USC and Ohio State in the 2nd round. And the SEC replicates what the ACC did last season, getting 3 semifinalists into the semifinal. I don't know. Get 3 teams into the semifinal in the 2nd year. Alabama gets the big upset over USC by 5. USC's perfect season is out the window. Alabama will take on Clemson, who also beat the first round bye team, Ohio State, by 25. Alabama, Clemson in the Sugar Bowl in the semifinal up top. Tennessee gets another upset. They win by 7 over Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. They've scored 42 points in each of the first 2 games. They will take on Georgia in the Rose Bowl, who doubled up BYU 20-10 in the Peach Bowl. So it's 3 SEC teams in the semifinal, but another ACC team from last season. That means they've had 4 semifinalists in 2 years, and if Clemson can lead them to a national championship, they get a really good start on Best Conference in the Video. In a traditional video, they would have won that Best Conference, but we have 5 seasons to go. Or we have 4 seasons, 3 more seasons after this one. 5 seasons total. So it doesn't necessarily lock it down for them. And both Clemson and Miami are going to leave the conference. So can the ACC keep up their momentum? And it's a classic 4-team playoff national championship. Georgia and Clemson. I didn't even point out. Classic semifinal. Clemson and Alabama. How many times have they played in the playoffs against each other? Clemson wins by 11. Georgia wins by 7. It's Clemson, Georgia in Vegas for the national championship. Winner goes independent. After coming up short last year by 7 in overtime to Miami, they get the big win over, doubling up Georgia 63-31 in the national championship game. Clemson is the 2026 national champions. That's 2 in a row for the ACC. 3 of the 4 teams in the national championship so far were from the ACC. They've had 4 semifinalists. The ACC starts off on a tear, but they do lose 2 of their best teams, with Miami and Clemson both going independent in these first 2 seasons. Will they be able to get another team in this season? Okay, we're 5-3 to start with Washington State, so our best season yet. But namely, the thing that we need to point out here is a couple crazy things going on in the top 10. Clemson, our defending national champion and newly independent team, is number 1 in the country yet again, 8-0 to start the season. Miami, our national champion from 2 seasons ago, is number 8. They're 7-1 as an independent. And we were wondering what was going to happen with the ACC. Well, let me tell you, they're in good hands. Florida State is number 4 in the country. Pitt is number 9 in the country. Georgia Tech is number 11 in the country. And Notre Dame is number 12 in the country. So they are doing quite well as a conference. Probably the best conference in the video still. If we look at the start to the season. We've also got Mississippi State, number 2 in the country. They were pretty good last year, didn't make the college football playoff, but they are number 2, well on their way to the playoff this year if they can keep it up. Michigan is a team that made it the first season. Tennessee, we saw make it last year. USC's made it 2 years in a row, looking to make it 3 in a row. Georgia's also been good. Oklahoma. UCLA was good last year. Colorado, who we saw at number 14 at the end of the first season, just had a rough loss on the road, or at home, it looks like, to West Virginia. Otherwise, they were a top 10 team leading up to that. We'll see what they can do at the rest of the season. Maybe they'll be the Big 12 representative. It looks like they're the highest ranked team. So the ACC is absolutely dominating. Tulane is trying to make it the 3rd straight season that they make it in. They just had a rough loss on the road to UTSA in the Alamo Dome. And they also lost earlier in this season in North Texas. But North Texas, although they've been in 2 straight conference championship games, doesn't look like they're off to the greatest start. So we'll see what happens from our G5 representative. But let's take a look at the Pac-12. Maybe it comes from the Pac-12 because Washington State were 5-3, 3-0 in the conference, had a loss to an FCS team to start the season. That's not a great start. The other 2 aren't terrible losses. And you get a win in the Apple Cup, but that's not a great start. We got 4 conference games left. Can we make it to the conference championship game? Namely, can we win that Boise State game and be the highest ranked team in the G5? Maybe Washington State is in the playoff in this 3rd season. We went 1-3 down the stretch, did not make the conference championship game, barely made a bowl game, but at least an improvement of the first 2 4-8 seasons. Boise State looks like they are well on the... So we have a couple teams here that are looking to represent the G5. Tulane, App State, Boise State, Hawaii. I think we're going to get another 2 G5 teams here. Could get 3, depending on what happens with USC. Okay, so Tulane, they win, they're in. App State, they win, they're in. Colorado might win. No. Tulane and Boise State win and in. If USC wins and App State wins, we could actually get 3 G5 teams in. Tulane, Boise State, App State, and then we would have the ACC and the SEC as the other conference representatives. If Michigan wins, we're only probably going to get 2, and maybe Colorado jumps over App State. Boise State and Tulane are probably safe. They win, they're in. But App State is on the border. If USC gets the win, USC or Colorado could jump them if they do, in fact, also win. But we could very well get 3 G5 teams in and all top 20 G5 teams in if things fall as they could and as we hope they do in this season. The other thing I'm going to point out, Pitt and Georgia Tech are both in. So the ACC is adding in new teams after having 2 straight seasons of their top-ranked teams being pulled out, winning 2 national championships in a row, losing both those teams to independent status, and reloading with the number 1 team in the country in Pitt and the number 7 team in the country in Georgia Tech going undefeated in the conference. We got to see if either of our independent teams made it in. They were both in the playoff hunt before we looked. Clemson is going to be back in, our defending national champion. Looks like Miami ended up having a rough end to the season. They went 9-3. What ended up happening? So they lost to Vanderbilt right before, and then they ended up losing to Pitt and LSU, who we saw them taking out. So not a great season for Miami, but still 9-3, still going to end up as a ranked team after making 2 straight playoffs and, of course, winning our first national championship. But the ACC, stacked here. They've got Pitt, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, all going to make the playoff. SMU very well might make the playoff as well. So they could get their most teams in yet, even though they've lost their 2 top teams in the first 2 seasons of the video. Clemson is going to make it in as well. The SEC is keeping some teams up there, but it's the ACC that's running away with this video. We've had so many Big Ten dominant videos in the last kind of cycle, last couple of weeks of really two weeks of videos. Before that, it was so many SEC dominant videos. Now the ACC is coming to play in this video, and it looks like they're going to run away with this 5-year sim in our season here. Denario Holiday wins the Heisman for Pitt. We're seeing Eli Holstein win the. It's not weird to see the Pitt winning a Heisman later on. For whatever reason, Pitt ends up dominating. They think that Pat Narduzzi is going to turn Pitt into some powerhouse, but this looks like a creative player. If not, it was a backup player, and dominating. They looked like they probably won the ACC championship game. We made a bowl game. We're in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. Washington State versus Nebraska. So that's good. Okay, we're moving on up. We'll see if Washington State can do something in the last 2 seasons here. But let's look at our bracket, because the ACC looks like they're absolutely dominating. They get their first Heisman of the video. So Colorado did end up making it in. I'm curious to see what happened there, if they ended up jumping over App State or what, but they get in for the Big 12. So that means that Michigan lost and Michigan dropped out. So I think the Big 10 misses the playoff this season. Yeah, they do. Okay, so Tulane makes it in for the 3rd straight season. This time they're in another road game. They're taking on Texas. Winner will take on Georgia Tech, who's the number 1 team in the country in the Peach Bowl. Colorado and Tennessee will face off in the first round. Tennessee is making their 2nd straight. I don't think they made it the first season. 2nd straight playoff winner will take on Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl. Boise State also made it in as a G5 participant. They will take on Notre Dame out of the ACC. Winner takes on fellow ACC team Pitt in the Rose Bowl. And then Auburn and Georgia face off in an all-SEC matchup, with the winner taking on Clemson. So we had a couple upsets in the conference finals. Let's go ahead and count them out. 1 American team, that's their 3rd straight appearance for Tulane. 1 Pac-12 team, with Boise State making it in. That's their first appearance. Colorado makes it in for the 1 Big 12 team. That's their first appearance. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 SEC teams for the 2nd straight season. We've got 3 ACC teams with Notre Dame, Pitt, and Georgia Tech. And then Clemson is our defending national champion independent team that makes it in the as a 2 seed and get a first round bye. They're playing the winner of that first round game in the Fiesta Bowl. But let's look at what happened in these conference championship games, because that was not – it almost all fell correctly. Did App State end up losing? App State won. Colorado jumped them by winning against Kansas State. So that means that USC won. Michigan then missed the playoff. Auburn won. That dropped Georgia down. App State should have been in the playoff as well. That's what I was afraid of, is Colorado jumping them. But it should have been App State as well. It should not have been Colorado. App State, I guess 11-2. They're both 11-2, but this is a more impressive. Well, I guess the Kansas State one is a more impressive victory. And Colorado gets back in it. They lost out last year, or the first season, by losing Kansas State. they get in after beating Kansas State, but we could have had 3 G5 teams. As it is, we have 2 for the second of 3 seasons in our video so far. Tulane is 0 for 3 in the playoffs so far. They lose by 35 to Texas. Texas will take on number 1 seed Georgia Tech in the second round. Notre Dame gets a big win for ACC. They win 51-6 over Boise State in Boise State's first appearance. This is Notre Dame's first appearance of the video as well. They win by 45 points. There's an all ACC matchup, Pitt and Notre Dame in the Rose Bowl. Auburn gets the win in the SEC championship game rematch. They win by 4, second straight win over Georgia. They take on defending national champion Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl. And then Colorado, the team that snuck in over App State, lost by 3 on the road to Tennessee. Probably did better than App State would have done. They lose by 3 on the road to Tennessee. Tennessee will face off against Oklahoma in an all SEC matchup. So that means we have 3 ACC teams, 4 SEC teams, and 1 independent team in the quarterfinal. The SEC is really the only conference that has a chance to catch the ACC, but the ACC has 3 teams in position, 2 realistically, because we're going to lose one of them here, to make it to the semifinal. That would be their 5th and 6th team. If they can get 2 in, that would be their 6 teams in the semifinal in the first 3 seasons. That is a dominant run if I've ever seen one. Don't forget they're coming off 2 national championships. And only 1 makes it through. Clemson, our independent team, does go down by 4 in the Fiesta Bowl. So that's actually the second straight season that we've got 3 SEC teams. So far, actually, the SEC has 6 semifinalists, and the ACC actually only has 5 after Georgia Tech loses by 3 to Texas. Tennessee beats Oklahoma by 21. Auburn, of course, gets the win, and then Notre Dame almost doubles up Pitt in the Rose Bowl. So it's Notre Dame as the solo ACC representative, and then 3 SEC representatives, Auburn, Texas, and Tennessee. Texas and Tennessee will face off in the Orange Bowl. Notre Dame and Auburn will face off in the Cotton Bowl. And we've got some crazy seeds here. 5, 8, 6, and 13. All of the home teams will lose again. I think that we've only had 1 home team, or 1 bye team win in the first 3 seasons. That's a 1-11 record. Something's got to change. One thing that's got to change is College Football 26 has to allow us to customize the playoff and put in an NIL budget. Those are 2 things that absolutely need to happen in College Football 27, because that will actually make this customizable experience better, or put the game on the goddamn computer so that we can get some mods to actually do that thing. And since you're not going to put any work into the Dynasty mode, because all you want to do is make money off of Ultimate Team. But for the 3rd straight season, we have an ACC representative in the national championship. Notre Dame gets a win by 10 over Auburn. It's Notre Dame, Tennessee. This is a matchup from the 90s, from the 80s. This is a classic college football matchup. Notre Dame, Tennessee. Both teams scored 38 in the semifinal. Tennessee wins by 3 over Texas. Notre Dame wins by 10 over Auburn. Notre Dame, Tennessee in New Orleans in the Superdome for the national championship. Can we get 3 straight from ACC to start our video and clinch the best conference in the video? Or can the SEC stay alive? Because the SEC has performed better in the playoff as far as the number of teams getting through, but 3 national championships in a row seals it off for the ACC. 3 in a row for the ACC. Notre Dame kills Tennessee in the national championship, 49-21 by 4 touchdowns in the national championship game. That means we're going to have 3 ACC teams that are now independents. One of them starts as an independent, ends up back in the independent sphere with Notre Dame joining Clemson and Miami in the independent sphere. We have yet to see anybody win 2 national championships. Can any of those 3 teams do it? And can any other conference besides the ACC get a national championship in the final 2 seasons of the video? Because right now, this conference is dominating, and they've got 2 more teams that made the playoff this year that haven't made it to the national championship in Georgia Tech and Pitt, who both got first-round byes. They are hungry for it, folks. Can they get a 4th national championship? 4-4 start for Washington State, but folks, look at this. Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame, all in the top 5. Florida State, a team that we have rarely talked about from the ACC has found their way into the top 5 as well. We've got SMU in the top 5 from the ACC as well at number 9. We've got Tulane looking for their 4th straight playoff appearance at number 12. This is incredible. We've got Army fighting for their spot in the playoff at number 16. They're leading the American as we speak. Boise State's looking to make it back in after they made it in last year. We've got Georgia Tech up in the top 25, and we've got Temple in the top 25 as well. So there is definitely seas changing. This is further than we usually go. This is uncharted territory for our videos here being in the 4th season. But it looks like we're getting another ACC team, at least one more ACC team making the playoff this year with Florida State and SMU. And I know one team from a power conference is not necessarily that impressive, but considering that they have 3 teams in the top 5 that have left their conference in the last 3 seasons, it is a truly impressive achievement by the ACC. Let's look at what's going on in the Pac-12. We're 4-4. Boise State is in the top 25. Do we have anybody else that's near the top there now? It's basically shit besides Boise State. So we'll see if Boise State can make it back as our only team that's made it in the top 25 from the Pac-12 so far. But really, can the ACC win again? Tulane is going to be back in for the 4th straight season, assuming that they win this American Championship game. And it looks like they probably will. But if they win this, they could very well be hosting a playoff game in the first round. Now, so far they're 0-3, and they haven't really done super well in the playoff. But hosting a playoff game might turn things around. We've also got Maryland with a chance to make a playoff game. We have got Boise State with a chance to get back in, depending on if they could jump over one of these Big 12 teams. Louisiana Tech is a top 20 team, which they did towards the end of the season. We didn't see them in the first one. And Florida State is representing the ACC this season. But we're missing a lot here. Our highest ranked team in a conference championship game is 5th in the country. So we're missing a lot. Actually, excuse me. We have A&M, but then, we have A&M in Michigan. So, but we're still missing a lot. The number 1 team in the country, there's a couple top 10 teams that we're missing here. So let's go take a look at the top 25 and see what we're missing. I think we're definitely missing at least a few of the independent teams. Yes, Miami is number 1 in the country. Notre Dame is number 4 in the country. Clemson is number 7 in the country. Our last 3 champions are all going to make the playoff again this season. We've got Penn State that we were missing as well. So they're out of the Big Ten. Oregon is right on the edge. I think they're going to end up dropping out. Not necessarily because, they are going to end up dropping out for the Big 12 champion. So that's the edge there. Maryland could find their way in. BYU is a little bit on the bubble as well, but definitely Oregon is out. They have yet to make the playoff this year. It's the curse of playing Indiana. But either way, we've got all 3 of our independent teams in the playoff. Deuce Knight wins the Heisman for Tennessee, transfers out of Alabama. I think he actually ended up going to Ole Miss, right? That's where he committed to this week. So we'll see what happens with Trinidad Chambliss, if he can sue his way back into the NCAA. But Tennessee wins the Heisman Trophy with Deuce Knight. Here, we went 6-6 again. So back in the playoff game, got the contract extended. But what is this looking like? So Oregon actually does make it into the playoff for the first time. They're taking on Penn State in the first round in an all-Big Ten matchup. Winner takes on Michigan in another all-Big Ten matchup. Tulane does get the first round home game. They will be taking on Tennessee with the Heisman Trophy winner. Winner will take on A&M in the Sugar Bowl. We'll see if Tulane can get our first G5 win. Notre Dame, one of our independent teams, defending national champion, will take on Oklahoma State in the first round. They'll be hosting that one in South Bend. The winner takes on ACC champion and lone conference representative, along with 3 former teams in the quarterfinal. I'm going to say it now. If Florida State wins the national championship this year, the video is over at 4 seasons. So there's no reason to go over a 5th, because we just know the ACC has absolutely dominated this video. And the next video will be about beating the ACC. But we'll see what happens in the Cotton Bowl with whoever makes it through the first round. The final first round game is BYU taking on Clemson. This is BYU's 2nd appearance, I believe, in the video. Winner will take on Miami, who was our first national champion, also an independent team. Clemson was our 2nd national champion, independent team. So we have 3 independent teams, 1 ACC team, 1 American team, 3 Big Ten teams, two Big 12 teams with BYU and Oklahoma State, and two SEC teams with A&M and Tennessee. Tulane is 0-4. They lose by 14 to Tennessee. 4 straight appearances. This is their first time hosting a game, but they are 0-4. By far one of the most dominant runs we've seen from the G5. Although we did see North Texas and Tulane. I think Tulane made it to the national championship game in one of our videos. North Texas made it to the semifinal, but 4 straight. We haven't even seen 2 or 3 straight from the same team. So 4 straight from Tulane is very impressive. Oregon loses in their first appearance. They lose by 3 to Penn State. Penn State will take on Michigan. We've got 2 all-conference matchups with the all-ACC matchup in the Sugar Bowl, all-Big Ten matchup in the Rose Bowl. We get an all independent matchup in the Orange Bowl. Miami is going to host, essentially, Clemson in the second round after Clemson wins 34-31. And then Notre Dame wins by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion over Oklahoma State. They'll take on Florida State. So what we have here is all 3 of our champions in the video so far. All 3 of our independent teams are in the quarterfinal of this playoff. Florida State, our lone ACC team and conference champion, will take on Notre Dame. They're the one ACC representative. 2 SEC teams, 2 Big Ten teams. But really, it's 4 ACC teams if you think about where they started in this video. Very impressive by this conference. Can Florida State carry the title for the conference and get independent as well? Florida State keeps the dream alive. They not upset, but they get the win over defending national champion Notre Dame 28-26. They will take on A&M as the ACC representative in the Peach Bowl. A&M won by 2 in their game as well, 56-54 over Tennessee. So it is A&M and Florida State, the Jimbo Fisher Bowl, if you will, ACC versus SEC in the Peach Bowl. Then Penn State wins the matchup of Big Ten teams, 31-26 over Michigan. They will take on Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl. Clemson is the winner of the Independent Bowl and the matchup of our first 2 national champions. They win by 3. So all 4 one-score games in the first round, 3 of them by 3 or less. Clemson and Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl, Florida State and A&M in the Peach. Also, I have to point this out. 2 teams get the win after having a bye in the first round. That's the first. There's only been one other team that's won with a first round bye. I can't remember exactly who it was, but the 2-seeder, which I think was Georgia in the second season, got the win in the quarterfinal. Otherwise, all the teams the bye have lost, aside from Texas A&M and Florida State. That's 2-14 at this point. So pretty impressive that both of those teams won. Look what we have here. Florida State, the 4th straight season an ACC team has made the national championship, and they will be facing off against a former national champion, former ACC team. Our second-year national champion, Clemson, makes it back to the national championship. So either way, we have either a repeat national champion from independent, or we have the 4th straight ACC national champion. This game is in Tampa, essentially a home game for Florida State, but really not that far away from Clemson as well. So this will be a dream national championship for the college football playoff. I'm going to say it. This has to be the climax of the video. This has to be the last season of the video. If Florida State wins it, then we get the ACC 4 straight seasons. If Clemson wins it, really we get the ACC 4 straight seasons and a repeat national champion. So this is the end of the video for sure. Let's see who can pull it off. What an incredible run by the ACC. We're going to have to see how we can toy around with the ACC to change some things with that conference, because maybe this new roster update has just made them absolutely dominant in College Football 26 Dynasty. 4 straight from the ACC. 4 straight championships from the ACC. They had Clemson and Miami in the first. Clemson by themselves in the second. I can't remember who they were playing against. Clemson was over an SEC team in the second championship. Notre Dame over an SEC team last year, over Tennessee last year, and then Florida State over Clemson. So of the 8 national championship participants, 6 of them were from the ACC or were former ACC teams in Clemson's case. They won all 4 national championships. They had multiple semifinalists, I believe, in the first season, and then I guess in this season as well, if you want to count that. They had 3 in the first season. They had, a total of 7 semifinalists, either with current or former teams that moved to independent status. So I don't know what this video exactly showed, aside from the ACC absolutely dominating it with 4 different teams winning a national championship in 4 straight seasons. That's a run of greatness. Now, this was a great video, but I have to come up with more and more videos now that I'm doing 7 a week. So please give me some ideas. I'm going to try to do some ones where I'm actually working on the team. I'll do the ones that I've done before where I'm just working in the transfer portal, but maybe I'll also do some straight up rebuilds as well if you like that. I've had someone request me to do like series. Would you like me to do a series of one rebuild, like rebuilding one team for a couple different videos? Or would you like me to do a series where I do the 3-season sims where I'm not really changing anything, but we're just trying to do experiments within the same dynasty to see what changes? Or would you like me to do like that? Or would you like me to do more of these like 4 or 5 season videos where we're trying to see exactly what happens if we extend a little bit longer? So let me know in the comments below what you'd be looking for. Well, of course, still keep up with the conference realignment videos and all that kind of stuff, but we're going to add some new things into the mix. Other than that, we'll see you tomorrow.